back on my first step ever, my friends, my ninjas. On this 40th episode of my first step ever and the 20th episode of season 2, I am here with an amazing lady, a young marketer, and she has an amazing journey so far. We will be discussing an aspect, a field of marketing, which is not discussed as often, or maybe people don't show an interest at a very early stage when they're right out of their universities or college. So that's what got me interested, because I really enjoyed her journey, reading what she has gone through, and that's why I have invited Bianca Ling. I'm so honored to have you on my podcast, my first step ever. Welcome on my podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And equally, I'm honored to be here and spend time with you. So hopefully we have a really awesome conversation.
Let me give a background about you to my listeners. Bianca is the marketing lead of Deloitte Australia, and she handles consumer products and retail sectors. So that is a big deal in itself because you have a lot of products, and that means that you're a very quick thinker, a strategic person, and you've and I think that forms a part of marketing, communication, and business development team of Deloitte Australia, which makes you a creative and a strategist. So that's a very, very good blend. And I think with that team that you're in, it supports consumer practice in driving campaigns across a range of sectors, including food, agribusiness, automotive, and retail. So I think anyone who's listening to us today who is in the bachelor's or doing the master's, something related to marketing, or ever thought of, you're interested in marketing, you are at the right place at the right time with the right person, because Bianca has over 7 years of marketing experience in the consumer field, in agency and professional services. And let me tell you, agencies are very, very challenging. And more than that, I think what really stands out in Bianca's profile is that she's a go-getter, and I think she's always striving for best. And that comes across when I read that she has received the Monash Business School Strategic Management Award while she was studying. And at present, she's part of Deloitte's 2021 Inspiring Women's Program, and was also selected for Deloitte's 2020 Unleashing Social Leaders Program. This makes me understand that you're not just doing your job, but you're adding on a lot of other skills to yourself, and you are very growth focused, and you are a true lead. So now that I've given a very, very big intro, but I think that was worthy of that time, I would just like to dig in, because you're coming from consulting, and the field that we're discussing is B2B marketing, which is business to business marketing, a very less talked about field. But here we have Bianca, and I want to ask for very first question. How did you develop the interest in B2B marketing?
Definitely. And thank you for the lovely introduction. I feel so honored again to be a part of this conversation, because you bring so much energy to every episode. So, you guys listening, you're very lucky to have this wonderful host here. In terms of B2B marketing, my journey to marketing overall actually was an interesting one. So it started with golf. And so sport is very random, but I was actually looking to build a career in competitive golf. And so I would travel interstate, and then there was this golf clothing company that actually sponsored me to be their brand ambassador. And so during that time, I was actually offered to manage their social media, and then really got immersed in the world of social media. And I started enjoying it more and more, listening about it. And then since then, I decided to move from there to get a role into a sort of social media advisory role at an agency. And this company was a small to medium business branding agency. So dove into there, really enjoyed doing that for a little bit, for that was kind of B2B already. And then decided to start my own food blog because I love social media so much. So random. And then from there, I guess, to get to where I am today really was I just love digital marketing and social media so much. I would just listen to every podcast, every YouTube video, that I wanted to learn from the best. Who in the business really knows their stuff in terms of business. And so I really just applied for this graduate program amongst other roles. And I landed in Deloitte's marketing, communications, and business development program.
That is incredible. I think your journey makes us understand that you can develop an interest in one particular field while you are trying different things, because once you come across different things, and you should also be open towards it, to at least
Mm,
try and see if it works for you. And I think your journey really symbolizes that you've gone ahead, you have tried, you have given your all efforts. When you mentioned that you tried hearing the best of the best podcasts and the best of the best YouTube channels you wanted to watch, that shows how much effort you put in when you like something and you want to make something good out of it. And that's
mm,
what added to your experiences, and now that's where you've landed in Deloitte Australia, a very prestigious company to say so. And but let's go to the basics, because I think people who are listening to us, everyone knows the business to consumer marketing, that
mhm,
you market your product directly to the consumers through different social channels, and that's also where we use social channels. But how is marketing from B2B, business to business, utilizing the social channels different? So I think my next question is, how is B2B marketing different from the B2C marketing? And what skills, according to you, one requires to ace that marketing specialization?
That's an awesome question. And I would probably say that although it's critical for every sort of type of marketing, I would say, especially in B2B marketing, relationships are everything. And so, in my role, stakeholder management is really important, but making sure that you're building a strong network of peers, mentors, people to collaborate with, whether that's in your role in a different business unit. Relationships are so key to what we do day to day. And for example, where we work consulting, advisory, um, pretty much every sort of problem solving sort of challenge we have. We are not just in the technical business, we're in the people business of building relationships. Yeah. And so I would say, in the last 3.5 years of my time, particularly at Deloitte, one of the reasons why I've been so fortunate to have so many opportunities is because of the mentors that I've had, the coaches that I've had, and the relationships that I've been fortunate enough to build. So that would kind of be number one. And then I would probably say any other thing around that would be the difference between B2B and B2C is that the lead time for conversion, so from awareness all the way to purchase, would sometimes, this is sort of general, but sometimes would take a little bit longer to convert because, the spend is higher and therefore the time and the financial investment might be higher as well.
That's fantastic. And you know what? I was actually laughing in my head when you said that B2B, it's all about people,
Mm,
getting to know your clients and being a people. How you can build your relationships. I was actually laughing because I had this thought in my mind. I don't know why I connected business to business. Being a technical marketing feel like it's all to do
mm,
with the back end, and maybe because I have in my mind, because consumer is the end person where you are facing the consumer. Maybe that's why I had that thing in my mind. So thank you
mm.
for busting that myth that I had. I don't know if our listeners
Yes.
had that too. We, even when we are studying at the university and college, we never really talk a lot about campaigns that took place for a B2B company. So we don't have a good knowledge or working knowledge of what it looks like in the real world. I think it's very much in a way it's similar to B2C. The principles um, are same, but it's very much different from the way you have shared with us right
Mm,
now. So thank you for, it's
pleasure.
great that we're talking about this right now and educating our listeners about this as well. So, from what I hear and see, the reason I wanted to have you over here and talk about B2B, because now that I am getting I'm meeting more people in my network and also joining more marketing oriented associations.
Mm.
I've started to hear this conversation. B2B marketing is doing quite well. The field is uh, kind of exploding with a lot of opportunities, and that's why I wanted to hear a lot more about it. So I believe B2B marketing is gaining momentum in recent times. Can you share the reasons why? Yeah, the reasons why, and who is this beneficial for, and like what is the future like?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I totally agree that B2B marketing is really gaining traction. You're right in terms of what you said before about university students, right? Most of the time, the principles of the marketing that you learn is about a chocolate bar that you buy on a shelf. But if you think about it, how did that chocolate bar get to that shelf? Well, there was a manufacturer who sold it to the wholesaler, who sold it to, the retailer. And so in between there are businesses working together. We talk about, just the end consumer buying the chocolate bar, but it's really critical in between all those stages of the supply chain for businesses to work really well with businesses. And even though you think that B2C is just to the consumer, business to business, it's how we operate. And I think as, our marketers and our listeners, on the podcast will go through their careers and understand that you whether you are paying an invoice or you're getting an events person or a digital marketing company to come help you with your marketing efforts, that's still B2B. Sorry, I butchered that. And you want to know what sort of service you want to experience, but the same way that you should provide to somebody else. And so if we're going back to as to why I think it's beneficial for the future, so I think why B2B marketing is so important is because, again, it's all about the people and it's all about the relationships. And we know, traditionally B2C marketing campaigns, what that looks like from awareness all the way to purchase. But B2B marketing is at this really exciting point in time where digital is still early on the cards for a lot of businesses. The personalization of knowing your consumer in B2C is quite mature, and it's only taking off. Whereas B2B, I could see that the adoption is still taking place. So I think the future of B2B marketing is going to be really exciting because the principles that we take from the B2C, all the data and the analytics and the creativity, we've got some of that, but to, fully apply and progress the field so much further, bringing that in will be really exciting.
That sounds exciting to me as well. And marketing is one field that is changing drastically. I think every now and
Mm,
then, and one needs to keep up with it. It just came to my mind when you were speaking about it. You gave a very nice example about a chocolate bar, and that sort of helped me understand what a B2C environment encapsulates and what a B2B working environment encapsulates. So I would like to throw the surprise question. If
go for it.
you're able to help our customers, I'm saying audiences, understand in a very simple way, like how does a day of a person who's working in a B2C department looks like, and how a person who's working in a B2B department looks like.
So I've worked in B2C where on my food blog where I've worked with, cafes and restaurants to kind of create content for them and promote them through social media. And so a task for that would look like I would go in and take photos, and then I would write a caption, put it in the scheduling system, and then upload it to social media. Probably prior to that, that would be looking at the strategy with the business owners, for example, and talking about who are the customers that they would like to approach and what are the sort of areas in which their customers would spend the time. And we would obviously invest in that time to draw those customers in. And I think really the principle is the same. It's just the execution is a little bit different in B2B. And so I'm sitting on the B2B spectrum, at Deloitte in professional services. We've got to know our customers. We've got to know where they're spending their time, what they care about, what the issues are. We write strategies about where they spend their time, where they spend their money, and then we invest. For example, one of the coolest campaigns that we've worked on in B2B marketing is this one called The Future of Food. And so we work with, um, FMCG players and food retailers and grocery players on, let's say sustainability is a really huge issue for them. We'll go and create an event that speaks to alternative proteins, waste reduction, responsible production, and spend time with them and build credibility and trust. So same principles, but the way it's executed might be a little bit different sometimes.
That's great. That's great that we know, like we can visualize what is the kind of a day looks like in a person who works for a B2C marketing space or person who works in a B2B marketing space. Thank you
Mm,
for breaking that down so that our listeners and even I am able to understand what really goes into making of things. We usually don't understand while we are studying, because you really get to know things when you actually are in that profession, actually working in the
mm,
company, or you are on the grounds and doing all the groundwork.
mm,
It's nearly impossible to really absorb everything in its true essence until and unless you're there working, making your own mistakes and learning from it. So thank you for actually taking out that glimpse from your journey
mm.
and sharing with the graduates very early on. And that is what the purpose of this podcast is, so that we can introduce to them what the journey really entails for them if they would like to go in this particular field, or just to educate them to add to their knowledge, that they can have something in their mind if they want to go forward with. So, my last question to you, Bianca, thank you so much for answering all the questions. I have definitely learned a few things here and there and really enjoyed listening to your journey as well. So, yeah, that you have really taken out time and to help our listeners. I want to know if a young professional, a recent graduate, or a marketing enthusiast wants to explore this field. What advice do you have for them before they get into this field, and what can they keep doing to excel in this field?
Yeah, awesome. I would say the headline would be just stay hungry to learn, have an open mind, and that'll open doors for you. I mean, I was in exactly the same position a few years ago, and all I would do would just be watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts like this one with your amazing host, and just gauge as much, gather as much knowledge as possible about this topic, whether it's B2B or B2C, and then reach out to people whose job that you would be interested to learn more about. So, for example, if there's a digital marketing role that you would like to get, I would go onto LinkedIn, search in digital marketing, coordinator or assistant or something like that, and I would just, message them and say, "Hey, I'm really interested in what you're doing. I'd love to have a mentoring conversation about how you got into this field." And most of the time, people are really open to sharing their knowledge. I mean, I've been really fortunate in the time that I've worked so far, is that I've just had incredible mentors who, because of the relationships that I've built with them and my peers, like my career has accelerated to experience all these amazing opportunities. And so, I mean, before we got onto this podcast, one of the questions that you asked me to also consider was like, well, what's a quote that resonates with me? And I would say that if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And that is 100%. So it so rings true to anything that you want to achieve, whether that be your career or personal life. The strength of collaboration and a really strong community will take you really far.
If you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. That
Mm,
was such an amazing note to end this episode on. Thank you, Bianca. I have enjoyed this episode. I hope so have you. And if you have enjoyed what Bianca has said, and if you would like to have this mentoring conversation, or
mm.
just be grateful for her to show up today and give some of her time and her experiences that she has shared with us today, you can connect with her on
Mhm.
LinkedIn, Bianca Ling, and leave that thank you note. And I'm sure if you have any more questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. And you can connect with me on my first step ever underscore IN Instagram account, and you can watch the entire video on YouTube channel. Let me know. And before I take a leave, I would like to say, start believing in yourself. And most importantly, keep believing in yourself. I am Ishani Nigam, your host for my first step ever, signing off for this week and eagerly waiting to have you and our next speaker again for the next week. See you.